All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's best, yes, I said it best, podcast, talking about nu metal, which is not just a music genre, it's a way of life. I'm your host, Jay Horskow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going this unseasonably warm Saturday?
It's going great, man. I think it feels great outside.
Are you high right now?
Dude, it's not even humid. It feels great.
Well, maybe I'm just speaking for all of us fat people when I say you're high right now. And with us, we have special guest. Chris, you want to introduce yourself? As he takes a nice big sip out of his drink. Great timing there, Jay.
Chris, a.k.a. Franklin. If you like hip-hop, go check me out. But anyway, here to talk about some nu metal shit. Let's have it.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Thank you, Chris. And we also have Rick with us. Rick, you have the floor.
Yeah, Rick Osborne. I do a podcast called Armed with a Mind, basically hardcore metal, news, interviews, banter. And so I'm a huge Chimaira fan, a huge nu metal fan. And so I'm glad to be here tonight.
Awesome. We want to thank you both for joining us. So Rick gave us a great lead in. The topic of tonight's episode is we are going to be doing an album deep dive on Chimaira's sophomore LP, The Impossibility of Reason. However, we are going to do this episode a little bit differently. We're not going to do the typical let's dig into each song because there's only so many ways you can say awesome without your brain kind of leaks out your ears. So we're going to take a more nuanced approach. We're going to discuss the instrumentation. We're going to discuss the arrangement. Tim's going to hit us with a whole bunch of facts about the recording. And then we're just going to go around the horn and get some random thoughts on the album itself, which was, I think everyone who's listening in the sound of my voice can agree was a big departure from the previous album. Pass Out of Existence does not really sound like The Impossibility of Reason. So Tim, start us off with some background.
All right. Released May 13th, 2003 through Roadrunner. Produced by Ben Schigel in Strongsville, Ohio. So, Rick, how close are you to Strongsville?
I could be there in about 50 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So, if you're familiar with Ben, he also did drums on Age of Hell, the last record with the original lineup, which is a fucking fantastic record. I also want to say, though, that dude producing wise for this record, I think was the high key of this record. I think that dude just got them in the studio and made fucking magic, because this record is magic to me, dude. It's that good.
Agree completely.
It's one of them records where like I can listen to it nonstop. There's no skippable tracks. There's no filler to me. It's just banger after fucking banger.
There's a little bit.
Right. There's a little bit there.
This is a 2v2 right now.
Yeah, but I mean, when you think about this album in relation to the rest of their catalog and also to what was going on at the time, right? So they were part of the late stage, I guess, second, maybe third wave nu metal. And then they come out with this album. And this album is right on the heels of, God forbid, getting big. Shadows Fall getting big. Killswitch Engage is really starting to blow up at this point. So that new wave of American heavy metal is cresting. And these guys come out of the woodwork and they drop all the nu metal aspirations and they totally lean into this metal sound in it. And I just remember picking up this album. I remember this came out around the same time as keep me honest, I think it was As the Palaces Burn. It was Soilwork, Figure Number 5. It was the Deftones self-titled. They were all Darkest Hour, Hidden Hands, The Sadist Nation. And I just remember picking this thing up and going, holy shit, this is not what I was expecting. And this really is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a different level of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go from 7-string to 6-string. It's just as heavy, if not heavier.
Yeah, that's another goofy thing that nobody really talks about. They cut a string and they maintain that heaviness, which, let's be honest here, there's a lot of nu metal bands that if you told them to go from 7 to 6, they would have been like, our next album's going to sound like Maroon 5.
Yeah. How do I do this? I mean, you go from drop A on a 7 to drop C on a 6. I mean, it's not the biggest departure, but
it's all in tone. It's all in the fucking tone when you do this. It's really, I've learned that over time, and I'm not a guitarist or anything, but we're recording with bands. It's whatever you pick as tone and whoever your engineer is, you'll make your sound.
Yeah, it's all in the guitarist's hand, wrist, man. I mean, what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Rob Arnold to me he's a top 10 riff writer in my eyes.
He's a monster.
He just writes amazing shit. Like me and Rick were talking about the Elite when he was on Ill Street, like another great band that he's in. great riffing. It's just, oh man, the
Hey,
dude can do no wrong.
For guitar players, like there's just certain people who have like you can hear their fingers. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And like
absolutely.
when Rob writes, it's just something special. I mean, like you think in that era of music, there's a lot of bands that like had somewhat of a departure away from like guitar solos, and then yet this album and almost every Chimaira album has incredible guitar solos throughout. You know, and they never departure from that, but they just did it their own way, and it's great.
Yeah, definitely.
And I
There's
would say, Rick, they're sorry, Tim, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Our solos are, I hate to use the term classy, but it's not fretboard wankery. You know, like Tim uses that term cat shit, you know, like where it's just squeals and somebody showing off what notes they can hit. Like it sounds like it's part of the music.
Yeah,
it's fretboard gymnastics. You know what I mean? Like,
and these guys don't sound like that. Like it actually sounds like it's a legitimate part of the song.
Yeah, definitely.
This is fretboard MMA.
Yeah, there you go. Have you guys ever seen the dehumanizing DVD they put out with this record? Well, not with the record, but a little after.
Yep, I saw it.
Dude, that is one of them like DVDs I can like watch like right after this, and I've seen it 30 fucking times, and I'm just like, it's just so good.
It's that DVD era. There was a lot of good shit that came out around like new metal. There was a lot of good fucking DVD era shit that came out with metal around that era. Like I remember when the 3 Vulgar videos came out too. That was one of the biggest things I watched over and over again.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
The fucking Vulgar video. Oh my god.
That's a wild ass one.
Tim, if we had Rob and Cleary on, those two jabronis lived together every weekend they would go to the bar, they'd come home blasted, and that would go on.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Every weekend.
I don't blame them. The third one is fucking crazy.
To think those guys, I mean, how Phil Anselmo is still up and functioning is just completely beyond me.
So this was the last record for Roadrunner, and I forget exactly why. I think they won it off for some reason. I think that Rob said that they were like focusing too much on like Nickelback and Slipknot and stuff, and they were just not giving them the attention they needed, which is, I think, kind of worked in their favor because they went out and signed to what was it, Ferret?
Yeah, I think they did one album on Ferret, at least one.
And who'd they go to after that? Was it E1?
I was just gonna say I think it was E1. Yeah, I think that's what they did, like Age of Hell and that stuff.
So I'm looking. Their next album was the last one under Roadrunner. It was the self-titled.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then they went to, I think you're right, I think it is E1.
You know what's funny about what you're saying is like I think they left Roadrunner because they did that last album, the self-titled, which was also phenomenal, and I felt like maybe they didn't get the push that they deserved. And they probably felt that way too. I mean, from a fan, if I noticed that, then you know I'm sure that they were feeling it too. Because I thought Chimaira was like gonna be like the next big thing. I thought the trajectory was just going up. You know what I mean? And it just seemed like maybe
they plateaued.
The push makes a big deal. It impacts a band, and so if the label's not pushing it, I mean, it is what it is.
I thought the Impossibility of Reason was going to get them on, actually, believe it or not, like more like metalcore stages, like you said, like with like God Forbid and shit like that. And like, engaged because that album came out and I was just like, okay, they're going to switch this level and they're good at it too. It's not like they came onto it and just kind of forced the sound. So I thought we were literally going to be put on tour packages with all those bands that were so big and hype at the moment.
Well, they did tour with God Forbid a little bit, but you're right. They were on a lot of tours with a lot of other new metal bands still after they went to that other direction.
I'm looking at I saved all my stubs from back in the day. I'm that old, right? I remember going to Ticketmaster.
Oh, I got it too, man. Don't even say I got the same shit.
Great, we can swap notes. So this album comes out in 2003, right? May 2003.
Yes, May 13th.
They in April 16th, 2003, they came through Philly with Lamb of God, Atreyu, and 18 Visions. They were direct support. So that's right before the album comes out. Then they came through again in July 1st, 2003 at the Troc with In Flames, Soilwork, and Unearth.
Yeah, I was at
and
that
then they did a headlining show in November 23rd of 2003 at the Troc again. My God, everybody came to the Troc like numerous times, right? Jesus.
Hell yeah.
And they were the headlining act, and support was Soilwork, Bleeding Through, and Kanai.
Yeah.
Kanai, however
Kanai.
you say that.
Yeah.
And then they played Stillborn Fest that year with Hatebreed, Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, Madball, Stretch Armstrong, Sub-Zero, and With Honor. So they literally played non-fucking stop for that year.
Well, you got to remember too that them dudes like this was Matt's first record. He came from Ringworm.
Yep.
What's his name? Was in what the hell is that? Rick will know this.
Who are you looking for?
The singer came from Skipline, right?
The singer of
Chimaira.
Oh, Mark?
Yeah, Mark came from Skipline, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the lineup of Skipline.
Yeah, that was a hardcore band. So Jason Hagar was in a hardcore band. I mean, he wasn't on this record, but
right.
They all have hardcore influences.
Well, Matt had Ascension.
There you go.
Yeah.
So they were used to being road
I was
dogs.
too young to be into Skipline and that stuff. That was like just before I really started going to shows in Cleveland and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real honest. I read a lot of fucking shit like with hardcore and like metal with like get your ass kicked like level.
Yeah.
Like Possibility of Reason. Like, to be honest, it sounds a lot like a hardcore metalcore record in certain contexts. There is 2 steps. There's a lot of fucking breakdowns.
Yeah. There's some hard breakdowns.
Yeah,
I have in my notes. I was like, this is a straight up like beat down breakdown.
Yeah, like some of the shit like even almost sounded like second album, like fucking Built Upon Frustration metal, like breakdowns at certain points.
You're absolutely right, man. And I think if you would ask one of them dudes, they would probably agree with that.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of parts where I could like probably 300 somebody in the chest and feel great about it.
I'm gonna be laughing at that all night now. So debuted at number 117 on the Billboard charts and sold 200,000 copies. 2004, they re-released it with a bonus disc called Reasoning the Impossible. And that had a bunch of demo tracks and B-sides. It also had the track Army of Me that was on the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack. But also on that record, they had that song Stays the Same. And I really, really hate that they excluded this song because I think that's one of their best songs ever.
I would say that Army of Me was rightfully so left off the album. I never like cared for that song. Even when I heard it on the soundtrack, I was like, I didn't feel like that was like, Chimaira submitted their best song for that, but at least they were still featured on the album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never. Yeah. The only time I've ever seen them play it live was at the reunion show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was never a fan, and only because I saw the title and I thought it was a Bjork cover.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I thought it was a Bjork cover, and then I listened to it. I'm like, well, this doesn't sound like fucking Bjork. Like,
You got to remember though, like all my stuff is going to be positive because I'm a fucking just huge fanboy of this band.
I am too, but I'm still a picky asshole.
But like you can picky asshole like wise, like look at early shit, like look at the song Sphere, look at Gag. Gag sounds like a sludge band practically, like fucking hitting that like straight death metal sludge like back in the day with the bell and shit. And like I heard that first. That was my first song I heard by them, and I was like, yo, I'm gonna fucking catch somebody real quick when this song comes on. But you go to the show for the first time as like a hardcore kid, and I was just like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, Chris, because I remember when we first met, and one of us started talking about Chimaira. I'm like, wait a minute, you like Chimaira? We're like, wait, you do too? We're like, yeah, it's like shit, man, because they're one of them bands that hardcore kids are just like, fuck that. I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're listening to the wrong shit because like, do you know how many bands were like take from that band?
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of hardcore bands that take from that band.
Well, I remember us saying that too. Like, there's a lot of fucking hardcore bands and a lot of metalcore bands that just straight. And I'm not even gonna lie, like rip the shit out of them. And
oh my god, yeah,
new metal. They're new metal. I didn't say shit. It's just like, no, you definitely did that. Like,
yeah,
but they don't want.
And then their band plays and they sound like Korn, and it's like, oh, okay.
Fuck you. Yeah, I love the bands that shit on new metal, and then they get up and it's like, what is this fucking Cold Chamber? But like trash.
Yeah,
like
it's terrible. It's just like at least say you have an influence for something and don't trash it. Like I like every single genre of music. I can find something good in everything. Everybody can if you look deep enough.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Definitely, man.
it's just like
I
it's
just
influences.
You have to be an open-minded, objective person, though, and that's the minority. So
Yeah, right. And I mean, truth be told, we all were young at once, and we were all at that age where what we were into was the best thing in the world. And you know, like, what do you mean listening to radio rock? Because all I want to listen to is fucking Machine Head. Where in reality, the older you get, you're like, you know what? You know, this should. And plus, we all know that we have the wisdom of age to say, you know what? If you listen to this shit nonstop all the time, and this is all you listen to, you kind of end up maladjusted.
What you started talking about how many bands took influence from this band, or maybe like, you know, we're ripping riffs or whatever. Just a couple of years ago, 2019, went to the it was Stick to Your Guns, Counterparts, Terror, Sanction, Year of the Knife in Cleveland, and I can't remember which band it was, but it was one of the opening bands. And one of the kids had a Chimaira shirt on, playing in Cleveland, and I was like, that's fucking dope. That like he's and it was like an old Chimaira shirt, and it was just, I thought that was cool to see a kid in a hardcore band still just being like, you know, saying like, I don't care if this is not a hardcore band, you know, I don't have to wear the cool hardcore band t-shirt. This is like what I'm influenced by, you know what I mean? And then also, like, I felt like it was cool that he wore it in Cleveland. A lot of bands that come through Cleveland, you see a lot of people rocking Integrity tees and shit like that. But
Ringworm,
you know, ringworm, but not very often do you see a Chimaira shirt at a hardcore show, and I thought that was cool.
It was definitely the Sanction guys, because I think they were their influence on their sleeves. Right. Yeah. When I saw them open for, what was the First Blood and Walls of Jericho. The lead singer had a Drab Majesty shirt on. Can you think of a band that is more like mirror funhouse mirror image antithetical to hardcore than Drab Majesty? And
that Sanction said it. This is hardcore was fucking devastating.
Yeah, my man's like they're legit band, and you could tell the major influence, like we were saying before, like Gag, like you could hear that song in a lot of their riffs. You could hear that shit, like,
oh yeah, dude,
so hard. I've seen them twice now, and like both times they were like literally the first band to play, and they just come out and just fucking destroy it. You know what I mean? Like so hard.
And the band next is like, we have to follow this. Like, what?
Sure.
Dude, I think on they played Sunday, and I was like, good luck after that set, because people, I think there were stretchers out for that shit.
I remember after you talked about that on the podcast, I couldn't wait for the Hate 56 video to come out, you know, because sometimes it just depends on the way he releases them. It could be months.
Yeah.
And when that set was up, I was like, oh, I remember Tim talking about that on Ill Street. I was like, I gotta watch this set, because I love hard pits. That's all I like to be around the hard pit. I like to be in the hard pit, and I like to watch the hard pit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, listen, when your band can just ring out at sound check and they start beating the shit out of each other, you know it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Tim, you remember D9 and fucking when we were there? Fucking This Is Hardcore. That was that fun shit, man.
Dude, what that was.
I think I killed somebody that day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you probably did. Holy shit, man! All right, couple more things before we get in trouble. During I don't know if you guys, well, you've seen the DVD. I always go back to that Down Again video where like they have all the drapes everywhere.
Yeah, it looked like they toilet papered the set.
Yeah, and it just fucking goes on fire, and you're like, okay, that sucks, man. But that's a fucking great song, man. That Down Again, like I understand why they kept that as the single. Like, was it the lead off, Jay?
I think so. Well, the intro is straight. If I told you to close your eyes, right, and I played that intro, and I didn't tell you what band it was, the first thing you would probably guess, if you have any culture at all in heavy metal, you would say, this sounds like something off of Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
That intro, right, Chris? That is straight Master Puppets. Like, that's the first thing I thought of.
What good?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, it's definitely a radio song.
100%. It's somebody Roadrunner stuck a dick in somebody's ass and said, "Come on, start singing, bitch."
I also think, but when I went through, like, I actually wrote down track by track. I wrote down some notes, and I think they would, if they had followed this up with something like Crawl which is not one of my favorite songs on the album, but my notes were, this is very Alice in Chains. Yeah. And I think they could have maybe roped in some people who weren't knowing what they were expecting, right? Like, yeah. It's like when Slipknot released the third album and they roped everybody in with, what was it, Disaster Piece or Plague Years, whatever, that first song, which is really heavy. And then the rest of the album sounds like Stone Sour outtakes. And you're like,
right. Pretty much that album was fucking doo-doo fucking hot.
But they led with the heavy songs. So you're like, yeah. Then you get the CD and you're like, what?
I remember being like a young kid and getting Iowa and just being so stoked and like just playing fucking air drums in the car all the time with my buddies. Cause we were like, oh, they got 3 drummers. So we had 3 of us in the car, just like all playing air drums. And then and then when what's the Gray Chapter or whatever it was that came after that. I remember just being like, what the fuck? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? Like, I was mad.
Tim and I have had the discussion, Rick, if there's an artist who knows how to divide his catalog, the one artist who knows how to divide his catalog best is Al Jurgensen from Ministry, because he knows that, okay, this is a Ministry song. This is a Revolting Cox song. This is Lard. Like, he knows how to, in his creativity, where to put it. Yeah. Whereas the later Slipknot stuff sounds to me like Corey Taylor was really kind of into Stone Sour, and that's where his heart was leaning. And
maybe he's more of a Nickelback fan than he leads on.
Yeah. And he was pulling it into the Slipknot stuff.
Corey Taylor was more of I'm a celebrity at that point.
Yeah, at some point.
He definitely had that attitude by that point for sure.
They're gonna do the Eternal Enemies tour too, and it's gonna be Nickelback and Slipknot.
But also, there's been many times that Chimaira, the singer, I'm terrible with names.
Mark.
He's been convicted of being an egotistical asshole as well.
Yeah, I think he would admit that he's hard to work with.
Yeah.
Well,
what did he say, Tim? What did he say in the DVD that he said when they're introducing each other? He goes, I'm Mark. I'm the fucking boss. And he's like, I'm the fucking boss is what he says, And so, yeah, he's probably like, he had a vision, you know what I mean, for Chimaira. And at that point, I mean, he had in his mind, he wanted to not necessarily like, he didn't want to run the motor, but he wanted to steer the ship, And I mean, you can't fault somebody for having a vision and wanting to follow through on that. I mean, he's not the musician, but he's got to be the orchestra. You know what I mean? He's the orchestrator.
Yeah, for sure. That he's kept it alive for this long. So
and you make a great point, Chris. I mean, he was there. He was the last fucking musician there.
Yeah. Some bands, that's their secret, right? Like, you look at Stefan and Chino. You look at fucking Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, right? Like, there's that creative difference, that creative tension that keeps them going. And it's got, I mean, for like something like the Beatles or the Stones, right? You can have like, I could see Keith Richards getting out of bed and going, I fucking hate this guy, Mick Jagger, but they have made so much money that it's like, I can probably put up with this asshole for another tour. Whereas if I get out of bed and they go, Rick's my vocalist, I go, man, I fucking can't stand Rick. And then I got to sleep next to his stanky ass in a bus as we're driving halfway across the country. And, like, that close quarters has got to breed that contempt, right? And when you're not a mega millionaire, it's like, I don't want to fucking deal with this anymore.
Yeah.
I think money's a big factor when it comes to how much you're willing to put up with shit.
Fucking right, dude.
That's any job, That's any job. I'll do the worst job in the world. You're going to pay me good for it.
Anybody here who's ever thought they were going to make money off of music, you're laughing. You're fucking dying to yourself. So the moment that you do fucking make money off of music, which is crazy because I've went back to a different lifestyle of music and made money off of it now compared to when I did hardcore for so fucking long and didn't make shit off of it. Like, it's kind of scary when somebody's like, I'll give you money for this. You're like, what?
Wait, what? Huh?
Yo, stop messing with me. I don't have time for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think you want the right route, man, and we'll talk about that too as well. So you definitely want the right route.
Back to the album. I made a lot of notes around the guitar because again, those two guys can legit play.
Guitar and drums. I think
the drums too. I think that the fact that those two guys write amazing riffs is wild. I think that stomp riff at 55 seconds and Impossibility of Reason.
Oh my God.
Like there are legit stompy headbangy parts, right? In every song. I think the one of the songs I'm not a big fan of, Pictures in the Gold Room, I find that song, the structure is perfectly built because it's verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, verse, chorus. Like that is not often in this type of music do you see standard song structure, and they actually put together not one of my favorites though on that album. And all you guys are waving at me like I'm crazy. What?
That song is incredible.
That's one of my top 3 songs on the album.
Me too.
Really?
I'm gonna have to agree with them too.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm outvoted.
Incredible
Dude,
song.
that early bounce riff, dun dun dun. Like I mean, every fucking time, you will never not catch me just bobbing my head to that shit every time.
I'm gonna look at the dude next to me and I'm gonna punch him in the throat just to hear that as that fucking riff comes out. Like it's just gonna happen.
It's funny because Rick was like, when he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming on," it just gives me an excuse to listen to it for 2 days straight. I'm like, I've been listening to it all week, so I mean,
I've listened to it all week. My wife's fucking be like, "Can you stop listening to this shit?" And I'm just like, "No."
got to talk about it. We got to listen.
But
I mean, I listen to it weekly anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I made a note of like a song like The Dehumanizing Process. There are 2 monster riffs in just one song. There are 2 completely different monster riffs. They pull out the stomp riff at the 2-minute 28-second mark, right? Like these guys can write good heavy music. Like they really could. And to think this was only a sophomore album, you know, and a departure, new producer, different key, basically different genre, different tuning. It's kind of impressive that they got where they got.
I was gonna say, like, these dudes wrote that album like they wrote that type of album from the beginning. It did not look like they ever like changed the genre. They literally wrote a fucking complete, to me, honestly, metal album. Like metal people I knew were just like, "Yo, this shit's awesome. I like this a lot." And I'm just like, "Oh, really?" Like, because the metalheads were the worst ones with new metal. They would be like, "Fuck that shit."
Yeah,
fuck all.
It's like, did you say new metal? It's like, it's like you're a vampire.
I just, Chris brings up the metalheads. I just watched some documentary on, it had to be like Amazon or something, about thrash metal, and it ends with the rise of new metal. Yeah. And everybody's like pissing and moaning, this isn't real metal, this isn't real metal. I really think that resentment, Chris, right? That because everybody shit on new metal and hated it. I think there was resentment because you had these metal bands, right? You had the big 4, you had all those bands making, honest, heartfelt metal music. And then you had the hair metal garbage, which was killed off by grunge.
Bullshit.
And then grunge is floating around, and these guys are still hammering away making metal albums. And then this new metal stuff comes out, and you have these thrash guys that were kind of sort of left behind, right? Because there were some lean years for metal, late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like bands like, Morbid Angel and what was it? Cannibal Corpse. There were a bunch of bands still putting out albums, but they were not getting the play or the eyes that they were getting before.
All you have to look at is like the Ozfest lineups from the late 90s into the mid 2000s, and like you'll see the trend. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Like 2001 was Linkin Park, Papa Roach, Disturbed, Drowning Pool, Mudvayne, all on one. That was like the changing of the guard.
Yep.
But at the same time, this music was popular. Like people that you would never think would listen to this shit, like Becky and fucking whatever in the fucking suburbs would be like, "Yo," and then at the same time, my boy Angel would be like, "Yo, that Linkin Park shit is pretty dope," and I'm just like, "What?"
Like, huh? It was like TRL.
Yeah, it was on TRL.
Yeah.
It was on there. Like my dudes that like people that would play Pogs would know about this, and then people I knew that fucking had guns would love this shit. And it's like, what is happening?
Well, Chris, I think you're right. And also Linkin Park, let's be honest here. They were amazing musicians. That first album is perfectly produced. Like that.
Linkin Park.
Hybrid Theory. You don't like it?
I don't like, I'll never like be like, I hate it. It's terrible. It's
just not your thing. Okay, I get it. But
probably
the point I was making
produced
is,
for him.
But that album,
See, I know you, so I can just tell.
Yeah.
But it too produced, overproduced, underproduced. That album drew in the new metal kids. It drew in the people Chris is talking about, right? Who weren't really into this kind of thing. They showed up on that Ozfest. You know, Rick, you bring up Ozfest. Tim and I have talked about this before. If you do we walk through those lineups and you can see the baton go from the new metal to the metalcore, new wave of American heavy metal. Because at one point, you know, all of a sudden the new metal disappears and it's Lamb of God, God forbid, Chimaira, and Kill Switch, and the Sugar shows up.
The following year was Unearth and Bleeding Through, and Throwdown, and all that stuff. You know,
but
I went to all those years, man. I lived it.
Best new metal or best performance, in my opinion, at Ozfest. Unfortunately, I was not there for it, but I got to see a million videos. Was Snot. So fuck everything.
They were amazing. They were amazing live. They really were.
That's a great record, man.
I'm a huge fucking Snot fan. So
yeah, likewise. They're what a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, what could have been, man.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about this too before I forget. Like during that record cycle when Ricky came in from Soilwork, it's just like he comes in and he's just like, my visa is expiring. Like I got to learn these songs in 2 fucking days, and he's going on tour already. Like you could see the anger and frustration in him in that DVD, and it's like you kind of feel bad for the dude, but then you see him act like an asshole, and you're just like, dude.
That was the dude from Soilwork, right?
Yeah, Ricky Evanson or something.
Yeah.
What you're saying though is so funny because you're absolutely right. Like they did a great job of directing that part because they really get you like pull on your heartstrings. Like you're like, I feel bad for this guy. He's coming into this, like they're about to go on a big tour. He's got to play these songs in 2 days. And then, like you said, like 5 minutes later in the movie, he's like the biggest fucking asshole. And you're like, yeah, well, I guess fuck that guy then.
And then they go right into fucking Tally, and you're like, yeah, Tally rules.
Yo, I know we're not talking about
Tally once, and it was amazing.
Or I know we're not talking about that album, but the opening track off that album is what is the name of that?
Resurrection?
No, it's the self-titled.
The self-titled.
I forget.
Nothing Remains.
Yes. Fucking drumming in that, right? Like that sets the entire tone for that album. And have you ever seen the Kevin Talley tryout video where he tries out for Slayer?
I don't think I've watched that. No,
dude. Right, Chris? Find it on YouTube.
Yeah,
like there, you can hear them playing, and they're like muffled. He is literally smashing the drums, with
beating the shit out of him.
Yeah, he's an animal. That guy is a fucking professional.
I compared him to like Lombardo, but like if Lombardo was drumming for Shattered Realm, it was just like hitting everything as hard as humanly possible. Like he wanted to break the skins the first time he hit it, so that was his fucking purpose.
Yeah, he was a monster.
Have you ever seen Tally's video drum cam on the Suffocation tour?
I think so. Is that the one where he's wearing the hat backwards and it's up over his shoulder?
No, dude. Oh my God. When he goes into that one song, I can never say this word. Is it I'm not even going to try and say it. But he fucking goes into the blast parts, and I'm just like, this dude is probably one of, if not the best fucking drummer in death metal. Like it's just effortless. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, look at who he's played with: Dying Fetus, Misery Index, Chimaira, Dath.
That's insane.
6 Feet Under.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of fucking nuts. Yeah.
It seems like he jumps in and maybe he's just that. Maybe he works that hard behind the scenes. You don't see it, but it seems like he just jumps in and it's like he's just got it. It's effortless. Yeah. He can learn all these band songs and just in a matter of a week or so, and then go on tour.
Yeah, he's an insane drummer. Like that. I say this about this album beyond the guitaring. Like, if these drums didn't exist on this album, it wouldn't be this good. Like, even with the guitars, put a subpar drummer behind that, it's gonna make it sound like fucking trash because they're so good. Yeah. You need that caliber of a drummer behind everything.
Yeah. It's like Fear Factory. If you don't have Raymond on them fucking first few records, you ain't that shit's garbage.
Shit, nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, his I know we're not talking about Fear Factory, but that new album rips.
It does.
I love it. Tim hates it.
Yeah.
I've come into it. I like it. I've come into it.
You're not into it, Chris?
Nah.
Wow.
Shit's fucking hot garbage.
I do hate how much of the keyboards are in the mix, and I think they're too.
What is it? It's like I thought I was in fucking Chumbawamba or some shit.
Yeah, dude.
Like, man, what a fucking reference that is.
I think the mix on that is just
I'm
bad.
fucking hot shit, man.
Yeah, you're fine. The mix on it is just bad, and I think you got to tone down them keyboards. But
see, I don't mind the keyboards. What kind of ruined that album for me is the one interview I listened to with Dino, right? The interview where he said, I think it might have been Doc Coyle who said, every band you work with, something always seems to blow up. Yeah. Do you think it's you? And Dino was kind of like, well, no, he gave the typical artist answer, which is, no, I'm just very passionate. And I have a vision in my head and it's what I want. And it's like, yeah,
but you're
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
he wants perfection.
Well, I think of that quote from Justified where the lead character Raylan turns to Boyd Crowder and he goes, some days you get out of bed and you meet somebody and you say, man, that guy was an asshole. But when you come home at the end of the day and you say everybody was an asshole, it's not them, it's you.
Yeah.
And I kind of think like some of these guys, maybe their ego gets the better of them, which is kind of sad because it stunts their possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all those dudes, especially Fear Factory, look at them like all their egos literally beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
That being said, Dino, if you're listening, we'll have you on the show. We'd love to sit and chat.
Dude, I'll ask him about that. I don't give a fuck.
So, Chris brought it up.
That's what I'm talking about. Talk that shit.
Yeah, I don't
fuck
give
that
a fuck,
motherfucker. Dude. Tell him fucking do that shit again live.
Yeah, one of my favorite bands.
Live in a minute.
Yeah, like one of my favorite bands.
5 songs.
Yeah, I'm still gonna be a dick. I don't care.
We're talking about the drumming though. This album, the one that stood out for me was the double kick in Pure Hatred. Like that song is literally a mosh call song, right? I hate everyone, and the my favorite part of that song is the
fucking what'd
you say, Chris?
The like I hate everyone like.
But dude, it was the early aughts.
That's in my notes too, man. Juvenile fucking lyrics.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I can't get down with juvenile shit.
But like
whatever.
That's what made the album so good. Like there was a lot of juvenile ass lyrics, but like the stomp and like the riffs made it like sound good. It was like it's like a fucking amazing producer behind a terrible rapper. It's just like that's all fucking like trap is right now. It's amazing producers behind terrible fucking rappers.
It's like Lil Wayne. Every time I hear one of his things, I want to fucking stab my fucking ears off.
6 foot 7 foot's a great song. Pure Hatred though, for me, you know what, it sticks out that I guess they run it through a phaser, that outro riff. The climbing riff, the dun 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 dun. Yeah. That's a monster way to end
with
the
song. Bass drop.
I did like that a lot. Yeah.
I had that in my notes as well. I said at 324 that like the groove at the end is just like ridiculous. And then the other thing I had about this song is like you could really hear Chris Bacuza come in with the samples on this song, like at 215.
You stole my goddamn thing, man.
I'm sorry, dude. We have the same notes. This is what we do. We're professionals. I'm
out here smoking weed, just saying.
But as far as like listening to this album and analyzing the songs, this is one of the more songs where I could really hear the sampling and stuff like that. Because this is a nu metal podcast and we're talking about nu metal elements that still remain in Chimaira. Even during this, this album, which is much more metal than it is nu metal, Chris still had parts in a lot of the big songs on this album.
Yeah. And I was literally going to say that it's very prominent in this song. And I think that he's a very talented dude. I mean, he did all the fucking graphic stuff for them. I mean,
yeah.
I understand.
He had like he wanted to do something with like a pentagram, and they shot that shit down so hard. They're like, no, everybody's got a fucking pentagram shirt. We're not fucking doing it. I think it was Rob. Rob was like, hell no.
So let me make an argument on this level. You may call it nu metal, but at the same time, this is why I bring to this element of like this matter. I wanted to come on here and just say, I don't think this is a nu metal album.
No. It's not.
I don't agree. I agree.
I know everybody agrees, but at the same time, even the key, like those keyboard elements and those, like those weird sounds and everything, like Swedish metal bands have been doing that forever. Fucking like Ministry, all these fucking industrial metal bands have been doing that forever. So it doesn't like even register on that. Like even when they did it inside Pass Out of Existence, like before this, like I almost didn't even consider that a new metal album, besides those little odd sounds here and there and the weird talking. But even like weird talking comes into like Vision of Disorder and like hardcore like that. So
absolutely.
Look at like Biohazard Punishment. Like the whole beginning is just like him talking.
Yeah, so like a lot of those elements in what they call new metal to me, like really related along the lines of what I always listened to in hardcore. That's why I got two and two together with both of them.
Well,
really.
it's kind of the argument that I always bring up is where people say Deftones is a new metal band. It's like, nah, like Adrenaline is as far as I'll go to even say that's a new metal record.
Yeah,
And the more I listen
they went
to
their
it,
own way. Yeah.
The more I listen to it, it's really not a new metal record.
It's almost like a California like skate punk record.
Yeah, it's just a heavy. I think Adrenaline is in a league of its own. I mean, nobody else sounded like that.
Oh God, no, never.
I see. I didn't get into them until White Pony, so like I was like a little late. But
see, it's not a hated album. I'm not saying it in this level, but that's besides Gore, that's my bottom album.
Right?
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people like hail that album though. Like I would say the normies.
it's an amazing album. There's no denying that at all. But that's because the Deftones to me are God.
Wasn't it just like the 20th anniversary?
Yeah.
White Pony.
White Pony was more commercialized Deftones to me.
What's better, White Pony or Genuine Pony?
Genuine.
Okay,
all right. Just so we're clear, we just wanted
clarification. No, White Pony is
genuine.
Sex.
Genuine.
What White Pony is sex in music form. That record just is. How many babies were made to that record?
Yeah, you can definitely see Cheetos, Depeche Mode, Sade influences come out real high on that album. So back to the Chimaira stuff. I want to ask,
because we can go great off.
What do you think is the worst song on this album?
I think Dehumanizing Process is the weakest track on the record, but I still love the song.
Okay, so like I went through and did like a Dave Portnoy pizza rating on each song. Yeah. So I didn't do like a 9. I did like 9.8 or whatever. So at least on the Dehumanizing Process, let me find it here. What track is that? That's 7. I have that rated as a 9.5 out of 10 for me. So but what you were talking about as far as the lowest rated song on the album, I believe it's Crawl. Crawl is my lowest rated song on the album. Not like I don't dislike the song. It's just I think it's the weakest song on the album.
Okay.
So what's your next song after that? With the weakest one.
The next weakest? Let me see here what I got.
I'm not the only one.
I'm gonna look and see what mine is.
All right, so my next weakest would be Stig Murder.
That was my second weakest. Crawl was my weakest. Yeah,
that's mine too.
Okay, yeah. So that was my next weakest, just because like my notes that I have on Stig Murder here. I did like at like the 130 mark at the 130 mark, the singer goes like lower. He goes like a lower growl on the vocals, and I thought that was cool.
I love the part where he's like, I want to change what I become. Like it goes into the singing part.
Yeah,
I think he nailed that part in the song right there.
And then like at the 2-minute mark, they have a fucking awesome breakdown in that song. That's the one that's like a beat down breakdown.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I was like, that shit is fucking hard. Like that's a hard ass breakdown.
Is that the part, Rick, where the music drops out and you just hear the double kick, right? The
yeah.
I'm
okay. Having a hard time recollecting all these different parts of the songs, but yeah.
That's where I fucking kick somebody's face off.
Right.
It's
that's
funny how
roundhouses, dude. We're going fucking Cobra Kai during that part.
I'm that shit. My groin is going to be pulled.
So do we conference in like Rob Arnold to be like, yo, you should have left Stig Murder off on the track listing, replace it with Army of Me?
Yeah.
No, he can replace Crawl, but The other thing about the dehumanization process is that's the song that they would do the Wall of Death on, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I've seen Chimaira probably more than a dozen times, and that like never got old. You know what I mean? Like the whole Metal Moses thing.
Can I tell you
And
I got in trouble during that?
yeah.
So Birch Hill, did anybody ever go to Birch Hill before?
Fuck yeah. You know how many shows I saw there? Yeah. Good times.
Okay. So I went to Birch Hill and they did that on that main floor in the big room. And I'm a fucking old school hardcore kid that like, fucking we don't care. So they did that and I cartwheeled into fucking somebody's face and it exploded and I got kicked out of the venue immediately when that happened. But I was just like, he called for this. Why are you mad at me? Like, why
Yeah.
Be mad at him.
I just did what he wanted us to do better than everybody else did it, and now I'm being punished.
Like,
Yeah.
this man's face is falling on the ground, but like, what do you want from me? Like, fuck, like, it's just
Yeah, like the guy on the stage up there that we came to see, he just called for violence, and I just demonstrated it, and now I have to leave.
Jay, if you remember like how bad like the bouncers were there, like
Yeah.
I got surrounded by like 7 people and they were beating me as me. They were like,
Yeah, they were all big dudes and they were just looking for an excuse. Yeah, it was.
I'll tell you, just from Cleveland's standpoint, at the Agora,
and
I
I'm
would
like
say
fucking like
the
200.
Agora Ballroom, which Chimaira would play regularly and a lot of bands play, they had the worst security when it came to like hardcore dancing. If anybody was like doing that, like it was immediate panic on their part, and we were like the bad guys and they had to get us out. And it just, some shows would just suck. It'd be like, what are you doing? Like, we're all doing this. This is consensual. And
yeah, nobody's mad.
Out.
Yeah, nobody's throwing fists out of anger. Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. One of the worst shows was a pre Ozfest show. So Ozfest had a day off. Dragon Force.
Excuse me, boys. I'm terrible, but I gotta go piss 2 seconds.
Dragon Force, Bleeding Through, and Between the Buried and Me played an off date at the Agora.
That's an odd lineup.
Yeah, and so yeah, like the Dragon Force crowd did not like the hardcore metalcore kids at all. They were not fans, and a lot of people got thrown out that day.
I don't blame them because I can't stand that one band. Dragon Force is trash.
Like literally, I was like, well, let's stick around for a song, and they came out and had fans blowing underneath them, blowing their hair up during the songs.
God.
And I was like, I looked at my cousin and I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. I was like, this is the wackest shit I've ever seen.
Is that as bad though? When Chimaira was touring on this record, they had this syncopated fucking guitar thing.
I don't mind that.
No, that's not bad at all, dude. That's dope when I do it live. That's
no, I don't mind it. I just saw a lot of
boy band choreography. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't mind it either. I just think a lot of people think it's corny, but
I do. Did that on Severed. Severed was always the song that they would do that. Fucking
yeah. It's like, bro. It's like if I wanted ballerina shit, I go see that shit elsewhere. Like act natural. Like be real about this shit. You're not Michael Jackson. Like
natural.
You're not Michael Jackson. You're not dancing. Like, shut the fuck up. Play the instrument, man.
That should be a T-shirt. Just say it. I want a shirt that just says "Act Natural."
There you go. Illustrated new breed on the front and the back. It says "Act Natural." The only stuff that like I know that kind of stuff is performative and corny, but again, Unearth, dear God. I have seen Unearth, and this is
with their troll looking asses fucking in sync and shit like that. It looks like fucking like the hobbits in sync.
And it's not even that, Chris. It's just I saw they played with everybody. Stings of Conscience. Yeah. They played with everybody. And they were always on the road. And you know what? I love that album. I also think The Oncoming Storm is a great album. But I have seen them live so many times that like literally, I think I've told this story before. Me and a buddy of mine were at Sounds of the Underground. They're playing and we're in line to get food and our backs to the stage. And I stop and I look at him and I go, guitar throw. And we turn around and Ken Susie throws his guitar. And we're waiting in a different song. And I said, each other's fretboards. And we turn around and him and Buzz are playing each other's fretboards. I'm like, it's kind of like, after a while, it gets tropey.
They're a mosh hair band.
Yes. So I'm going to start with you, Tim, while you're making your next drink. what do you think the best song on the album is?
Ooh. Okay. This is probably going to surprise you, but the title track, number 2, is the best track on this record. I absolutely love the fucking drumming in that song. The riffing is so fucking good. It's just everything about that song is just it's essential Chimaira for me. And I think that going from Cleansation to that, I think was whoever came up with that track listing lineup is perfect. A genius, because like Chris is saying right now, it's fucking perfect, because you go from the fast opener and you just go right. They don't give you a break. They just beat the shit out of you right away again. And I just think it was perfect. And that song is the best song on this record.
I've got that song rated as 7.9. And then another thing I had down is Rob's solo at the end of the Impossibility of Reason is so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It reminded me of Dimebag, to be honest, and it almost made me kind of tear up. And that
I can see that.
That's a large influence, though. I mean, Rob would tell you that. There's plenty of interviews where Rob would hail Dimebag as an influence. So
you could hear that pull on when he's pulling on the strings. That's definitely a Dime type pull.
When you watch him play live, it's all natural. It's like you were saying, it's just 100%. He just loves it. You know what I mean? He has so much passion, and he's just got flair, and he's playing the most intricate riffs. I mean, stuff that a lot of guitar players couldn't even play. And he does it smiling and headbanging and just having a good time. And it's just fun to watch. Whenever we used to go early on, when I started getting into Chimaira, we would always try to stand right side stage, which was Rob's side of the stage, because we just love watching Rob play. You know what I mean?
He's one of the musicians where you smile when you just watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's
even his YouTube channel is great.
As a band, they always just seemed like they were having fun. They never seemed like they were just miserable up there on stage.
And it's
then
funny.
You watch the DVD.
It's funny though, because as the years go, Rob, his hair gets longer, the beard comes in, and he just looks haggard, and he's just he's got the road face. You know what I'm talking about? I've been in this fucking.
He just turned into a metal god, though. The albums after that were just straight. I'm a metal god. Fuck all of you. That was pretty good.
Yeah. I think he was one of the best.
His face and his demeanor just gets more pissed off as he goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that shit, man. And if you watch him now on his YouTube, he's all smiling. He's skinny as hell.
He's not living in a van with a bunch of smelly dudes. He's at home. He's got a family. I always think of one of the bands I've seen most is the Black Dahlia Murder. And, they go through members fairly quickly. And I remember seeing the last tour with Bart and the last tour with John Campion, and then the last tour with the guy from Arsis. And you can just tell when they're on stage that in hindsight, you can tell that something was a little bit off, but you couldn't put your finger on it. And then they get home and they announce that such and such leaves the band. Chris Robert, best song on the album.
I'm going to have to go with what Tim said, to be honest. The Impossibility of Reason to me is just this most complete song on the album.
It is, man.
It's maybe because of the transition, like he said, because going into that song just made me kind of feel like this is the perfect placement. And then at the same time, like I was saying, it has the full scale. You hear metal, you hear death metal, you hear almost hardcore, you hear straight Pantera, like I said, Dime influence, heavy, and there's perfect bridges, chord, it all works together.
Yeah, it's a perfect song.
Rick, best song.
Eyes
Which
of
one
a
got
Criminal.
9? Really?
Deep cut. Number track 10. Eyes of a Criminal, man. I've always fucking loved that song. It's a banger live. And
damn, I forgot
the lyric, when you hear somebody say, "I've got your back," you're immediately thinking oh man, this guy's helping somebody out. He's, and it's no, he said, "I've got your back. I've got your back against the wall." And it just always resonated so hard with me. I was that's the simplest lyric, but so effective. You know, the way they do that, just kind of
Sounds
like
a pasta lyric.
yeah, right. And you know, there's another song later in the catalog. Was it Pray for All?
Yeah.
And he's like, I will make you pray. And then you're like, what? Did they just go like Christian metalcore? And he says, I'll make you pray that you're able to breathe when I stand on you. And it's like, once again, it's a simple play on words that just is so effective and catchy. And yeah, Eyes of a Criminal has just always been a banger. I rated that a 9.6. The next highest song was a 9.5, and that was the Dehumanization Process. So
I'm surprised.
Man, I think the best song on this album is Overlooked.
Wow. Are you about to say
Really?
Crawl?
No, Overlooked.
No, overlooked the last
Really?
song.
I
last
think
track
this
before the
is the
instrumental.
best song on the album. The riffing, the double time, it drops out in the middle where they get some clean vocals in, and then they go right back into that monster fucking chug riff.
Yeah, that's the beat down riff I was talking about. And my notes on this song, I wrote slow jam. This was the slow jam.
They have that the part in the middle where the bridge, it drops out and it's really slow. And if you think about it, this is the last true song on the album, because the song after this is the instrumental outro, which at this time in the early aughts, everybody was doing. The Darkest Hour did it at the end of The Hidden Hands of a Sadist Nation. I think somebody else did a
but nobody did it this good.
Now I gotta go back and listen to the Darkest Hour one.
In Chimaira's
Darkest Hour, I would say.
Jay, I don't know why I'm surprised that that's your favorite song. I don't know why I'm surprised.
Why would you be surprised?
I don't know.
I have always been a deep cut B-side guy, because I think sometimes bands, they bury some of their best work probably because they're tired. They've been in the studio now for months. They just want to get out. So they're like, okay, these 8-10 songs are good enough. Here's the listing. Let's go. And 9 times out of 10, there's at least one solid banger at the end. Look at another, give you an example, right? These guys, Misery Index. If you go back to Heirs to Thievery and you listen to, it's the second to last song. The last song is all in Spanish. It's the song before that. It's a fucking monster. And like, this is an album where they just blast your face for 12 fucking tracks. I just think sometimes bands sneak stuff into their late on the B-side, deep in the B-side, that they don't even realize. Another good example is Monoliths of Inhumanity by Cattle Decapitation. I would argue that B-side is just as good, if not better, than the A-side.
Hey, can I ask you, like, when you're talking about instrumentals, like you said, there's a lot of bands that were doing that, but were there a lot of bands that were doing that like one time each album? Do you know what I mean? Like Chimaira kind of had this as a trend where they had the one on Pass Out of Existence at the end. I can't remember the name now. And then they had this one. Then they had, I believe they had at least one more instrumental. And then they had a couple of tracks that were also like 8 or 9 minutes long that were just jams. You know, it's just nice to sit and listen to a jam. I mean, these guys are all such talented musicians. It's kind of nice to pull Mark back and let these guys just
true. No,
play,
you're
you know what I mean?
right. And I will give you that, Rick. It's not everybody did it on every album as well, but I definitely noticed that it was definitely a trend. And to Chris's point, you know, hardcore bands at the time, they were using their what should have been their intro as their outro. First Blood did it on California. Tear It Down by Hatebreed at the end of Rise of Brutality, right? Like, what should have been their intro, for some reason they made
One Life outro. Crew, Murdario Stomp.
Man, you want to talk about like a reference. That's a fucking reference.
That song, like those guys, you know, lots of people feel different ways about those guys, but that's a fucking banger of a riff.
Oh yeah,
it is. That whole record's good.
Yeah. Who the fuck is this guy?
You can't talk about it though, because you'll be canceled in 3 seconds.
Yeah, well, those guys, they're like the alt-right hardcore trolls of the internet, you know. And I've been around Chubbs a lot. I've talked to him. You know, he's a super nice guy when you meet him. But those guys just love to troll, you know.
Yeah, some guys just like to poke the bear and start shit. It is
who they are.
Yeah. And to your point, Tim, about, you know, canceling people, it's like, look, so they fucking talk a good game and they like to get people fucking riled up, whatever.
Right.
It's 99% of what the internet is there for, right? If you're not
That's
looking
what the
porn,
media does.
If
The
you're
media
not looking
just
at
doesn't
porn, you're there to piss
much.
somebody off. Yeah.
but let's be honest. If like somebody's that really egotistical in this type of music, are they unreachable? No. Fucking look at fucking like Danzig. He fucking talked shit and got fucking his ass fucking knocked by Danzig.
Got clapped, dude.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one of the best viral internet videos ever.
I know, but it's amazing because this dude, this fucking Goomba that we all know from like hardcore, that like he talked shit to his homie and he was just like, he stepped up to him. Like people should do that. Like if people are that egotistical, talk to them. Like most people will be civil with you.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's scared.
Yeah.
And everybody's got an ego too. That's why too.
Yeah.
That's the bigger thing. Yeah.
So I have a note here, and I just want to say this too before I forget. Like I think this record is one of the most underappreciated, undervalued, and I think it's one of the most underrated records of all time.
Absolutely, 100%.
I think a lot of people I think a lot of people just look at this band from the earlier output and they're just like, oh, it's garbage new metal, but they're missing the whole catalog after. And it's like you're doing yourself a disservice by not checking out stuff.
It's easy to get lazy, Tim. You know, if you write off the first album, maybe the second album is absolutely amazing and you just don't even realize it, you know?
Yeah. I have a lot of younger friends that are like into hardcore. And I've had to be like, you know, I'm the older hardcore guy that likes Chimaira. And they're like, oh man, yeah, like I don't know. Like I knew they were from Cleveland, but like I never really listened to them. And like I played them some songs that were riding to a show or whatever. And they're like, dude, this is a fucking like this riff is a fucking banger. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like this is so good. You have no idea. Like you should just open up your mind and you don't have to be like, you don't have to go and start being like, I'm a metal guy now. Just enjoy it. It's good. But I wanted to touch on a couple things that I had like in my notes. Yeah, because you were talking about Crawl earlier, and I thought this was funny. I got real like Cemetery Gates vibes on Crawl, you know, as far as the song goes. And Eyes of a Criminal, I thought it was Rob's best solo of the album. I thought Andals really shined on that one. He had a lot of like extra like China and cymbal work at the end that was just like, it was excess. It was surplus. He didn't need to do it, but it's like he did it because he's a drum nerd and he's so good and just intricate with what he does that, you know, he enjoys playing difficult offbeat type stuff. And I appreciate that. I thought Down Again was, you know, kind of like short and to the point. They had a lot of like the vocal harmony in that song. Which is like, yeah, but it was like you said, it was the mainstream rock radio, metal radio, like single. That's what the label wanted to go with because they thought it was the most palatable to the overall audience. So I don't think that's necessarily their fault. That's probably more a label thing because if you look at the rest of the album, it's so much heavier than a lot of that stuff. And that's what and look at what they did after this album. It didn't get more radio or lighter. If anything, it got heavier.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's a testament to the band.
And you're right. I think Down Again was a song that the label was like, listen, if you got to put out a song that can get radio attention. And even if you ask the band, and they've said in interviews, we didn't want to fucking do that. They made us. They made us.
But the label's going, if you want us to push you, then you got to put something out we want to push.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Even in the DVD, they're listening to Stays the Same in the Car, and they're just like, this is not going on the record. It's too fucking soft. Like it's too pussy.
Yeah.
And even Jim says he's like, it's too pussy. Like I'm not about this right now. And it's like, it's just you hear people from a band say that who are on Roadrunner Records, and you're kind of just like, don't you want to like be like, you want to bite your tongue and be like, fuck it, let's do it because you have the possibility to become something that you always wanted to be. But he's at the point where he's just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is where I stand on it. And I always thought that was fucking great about that dude. He was he's a goofball, to his detriment, kind of like,
you know, I mean, maybe to his detriment, you know, or to the band's detriment. But yeah, you can respect him taking a stand in the vision that he had.
Yeah, he's a goofball, but he knows what the fuck he wants, you know?
Right. I had one other thing I wanted to bring up. We didn't talk about Pictures in the Gold Room at all. And that's a great song. But I get real like Amanda Berry vibes from that song. Do you remember that Castro dude that had the girls trapped in the basement in Cleveland for like 10 years and they were still alive? And
that was Cleveland?
Yeah, this girl Amanda Berry was missing for like 10 years, and then that they like escaped this guy's house. And
I remember that story. Okay,
then,
yeah.
yeah,
Isn't there a
the
movie
dude
about
Charles
that?
Ramsey who was on the news after that, and he was like, "Man, I ate ribs with this dude." He's like, and he said, when a pretty white girl run to a black man's arms, he's like, you know something wrong. He's like, that was a dead giveaway. And then they ended up making a whole like meme song about it because he was just like the next door neighbor, and these girls were like, "Help!" But that whole song is about being like, you know, dark room opens, no light for years. Like it's about somebody being trapped. And I was like, they wrote this about Amanda Berry, dog. Like that was the track.
I think my girlfriend put a Lifetime movie on for me one night about that.
Probably. They did
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
It was
I remember
fucked up,
now.
dude. It was fucked up. But some of the stuff that Charles Ramsey dude said on the news was fucking hilarious. Because he was like that guy that was just so happy to talk to every media outlet possible, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Just like the lady that did the whole what is it? Fucking oh Lord Jesus, there's a fire. Like that lady, got famous. She wanted to be on the news, you know.
Oh yeah. I remember that lady.
Well,
I have
my
asked,
one note to this, I was gonna say is just out of anything is most new metal was labeled as dudes trying to play metal that couldn't play their instruments that well. These guys could all play their instruments beyond talent, beyond most people that played their instruments. It was kind of a show off to them in this whole genre that they were involved in because they would come up below everybody the fuck away on their instruments and just walk off.
Genre. But
Just
everything
because-
after that was a departure for sure. And it never felt like a new metal show, not to me at least. And I had been to new metal shows and it didn't feel nothing like that.
I thought they were new metal until this album came out. And then this album, I was like,
well,
okay,
really, this is only the second album. I mean, they
Yeah.
had the EP, you know, Pass Out, and then this. So I think this is like ultimately just a bunch of young guys who were super talented. And then they just found their lane. They got progressive. They said, well, we did that. That was fun. That was like the thing that was going on at the time. But here's what we really want to do.
Yeah. I was kind of like Deftones, to be honest. To me, like for the longest time, they started at one end and just fucking progressed into this amazing shit, like band. Besides one miss.
A lot of times bands progress in a direction that you're not happy about, but Chimaira did it right. I mean, they were just like, this is kind of childish, you know, let's get away from this. We're better than this. And I mean, not in a way of like superiority, but just better. Like they were capable of more, you know, and they proved it.
Is this a record? Like, I'm going to ask you three guys and I'll start with you, Rick. Is this in like if you had a top 20 list of records, top 10, is this in it?
Yeah, this is probably at least top 10, if not top 5 for me, like all time. This is one of the few records that I like you said, you listen to this weekly. So do I. I mean, maybe not the whole album all the way through, but there are tracks from this album that I listen to on a weekly basis, you know, 18 years later.
Absolutely. It's in my top 10 at least. How about you, Chris?
Top 25 metalcore albums because I don't consider anything else.
Okay. That's fine. Jay, I already going to answer for Jay. I'm going to probably say no.
I think I would go with Chris, right? If you had to tell me, pick your top metalcore bands, new wave American, like they would definitely, this would be up there.
Yeah.
Top 20 albums of all time. I don't even know if I could do that list. I'd probably give myself a fucking stroke, right? Like just trying to figure it out. And, you know, you guys will get a kick. Reddit just had their top 100 most influential or most important nu metal songs.
Yeah.
And each person was allowed to submit up to 20 songs. And Tim and I, we literally struggled because we banged out 20 like that. And then I went, shit, what about Mudvayne? And then, shit, what about this? And it was really tough.
It is.
So
those lists are hard. We've done episodes on my podcast similar to that, and it's really hard. Whether
tough.
It's the top 10 songs or top 10 albums, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, especially when you get asked, and I think I did this to you on Ill Street, like, what's your top 5 records? And you're like, fuck, man, really? Like,
no, I
don't
think you asked me that one, but yeah.
And I got this from Jay because he does this to people. He does this to guests as well. And I love it when it's on video because you always see the people go, fuck. Like, why would you do that? And then I'm like, I'm stealing
when you listen to as much music as we do, it's hard to narrow it down. Yeah. If you break it down into subgenres, then maybe we can figure it out. But
even that, like nu metal, to be honest to me, like you start naming like Mudvayne and shit like that. Where does that even stand in nu metal? It's not even like nu metal technically, that it has funk elements, but has like fucking weird ass shit involved in it. But like, is that what genre is really about like that?
Yeah, that's where it gets ugly, right? Because then you got to start slicing, right, Chris? You got to say, are they or aren't they? And if they are,
Yeah, because I think the End of All Things isn't really a nu metal record.
Hardcore and like fucking like reggae bop and like fucking like hick shit and like fucking weird shit. Like it's like you don't even know where to fucking start with half this shit. Like,
no, you're right. And we just did an episode called New or Not, and it was fun as hell because it's like Jay would name a band and people are like, not fucking nu metal, and I'm like, nu metal, and it's everyone's like, wait, what? And then there was
he
names another band, and I'm like, not nu metal, and everyone says new, and I'm just like, see, this is why it's fun, you know?
What was the one band where I think it was it Matt? He made his case, and as he made his case, he basically convinced himself that his original case was wrong. Like he said, a certain band was nu metal, but then he talked through it, and then he realized, oh shit, I think I just made the argument that they're not nu metal. Yeah, that's our that gets our nerd hackles up, right? Because that's the kind of fun conversations to have. Or like Chris says, you got to start pulling apart the word. Okay, so what is nu metal?
Yeah, where's it coming from?
Isn't it funny how you have conversations and like you said, you end up like trying to defend your point, but then you could like kind of like get yourself questioning it the more you argue it. You're like, wait a minute, like I'm kind of wrong on a few of these things.
Did I just contradict myself?
Yeah. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm sure you guys we're getting ready to wrap this up here. But
we're not wrapping yet. I got like 10 more things I want to talk about.
Okay, well go ahead. Well, let's keep going then. I got somebody I want to shout out here.
If you guys got to go, that's completely fine. We'll finish.
I don't have to go. We're good.
You're gonna go soon.
Yeah. All right, I'll get through these quick because I just looked at the time. I can't believe we're an hour and a half already. Well, if there's one thing that disappoints you about this record, what would it be? And I'm gonna go first. I think, and this is a minute fucking thing that people would probably roll their eyes at, but like the kick drum, I think it could have been done better. Like when you listen to it, it's kind of like the mix on it. You're like, I don't really like it for this record. That's the only thing that I've ever had a problem with on this record. The rest is perfection to me. What's like something, and I'll start with Jay since he looks like he's struggling over there. What would be like a thing that was disappointment for you?
See, I don't think any of this album disappoints for me. Again, we talked about like the songs that are obviously weaker that maybe I would have thought about having them on the album. But I mean, when I'm looking at the track listing and I'm looking at my notes, I'm like, I can't argue the track listing. We've already talked about the song selection. I mean, maybe because I like it so much, I would have put Overlooked higher up in the track listing, but I mean, otherwise, it's a well put together album, and I think Rick said it. The songs do flow well together from one to another, and they do enough switching of time where Cleansation's really heavy and fast, Impossibility of Reason's heavy and fast, and then it has that guitar solo outro which leads into the stomp riff for Pictures in the Gold Room. So I actually kind of really dig the sequencing. I don't know. I mean, maybe they could have went down to say 7 or 8 songs and just made it like, because Misery Index has done 7 or 8 song albums. So is Origin. Just pick the 7 or 8 heaviest fucking puberty inducing songs you can find and keep it like that. Like take a page out of the hardcore book, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
That's maybe all I would suggest.
I think labels like Roadrunner demand a 12 song.
Oh, it's 10 to 12.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Give me 14 or give me death.
Yeah, like and another thing I wanted to say, like, and this comes from black metal where like it's always cold and it's winter and blah 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 blah. But I feel like this record, when you listen to it, like it was recorded when it was just really fucking cold out and people were just angry and like
Cleveland winters suck.
Yeah, like you can feel that. Like there's just.
Have you ever been to Ohio?
Yeah,
I live here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just feel like this
I'm
record
still
was
like
recorded
I'm about
in,
an hour south of Cleveland, but I'm still in the snow belt, so like we still get all the shitty weather from the lake effect stuff.
I drove through and I was just like, I want to kill myself. Like, so I don't know how like fucking that works. So
hey, the Browns are good again, so it's getting better. But so as far as like bad shit on this album that I would say, I'm like Tim, I absolutely love this album. I love this band. This is one of my top, like I said, probably top 5 albums all time. So I'm not gonna sit here and like tear it apart. But at the same time, as a hardcore guy, Power Trip is Chimaira's Destroy Everything to hate me. Do you know what I mean? And it's a banger live. It's a crowd favorite. It gets the crowd going. It's a fun song, but it's honestly like one of the most adolescent songs on the whole album. If you look at like lyrical content and stuff like that, it's just kind of a silly song, but it's fun. And you know, it's the Rob solo is cool. It's fast and it's effective, but it's not necessarily like the best track on the album. It's just a fun live show banger, you know?
I got 2 things and then I gotta be out of here soon. One, I think it's overproduced. Sounds too polished, too clean. There has to be a little bit of fucking dirt on this. If there was a little bit of dirt on this, I would love this fucking album 20 times, probably more, because it sounds like somebody in that studio just went, I'm just going to tune up everything just so there's nothing in the background.
Roadrunner for you again.
2, adolescent lyrics all over the place. It just sounded like fucking 12-year-old kid fucking like anger at mommy like at times. Like I was like, it was kind of cringy at certain moments.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
But like I said, sometimes with producers, sometimes with people that know how to play their instruments all together and just mold that well, they can cover the worst of the worst just with that. And it's just that easy. But that was my only complaints about the album. Other than that, the way people wrote it, the sequence was great to me and everything else. What? Huge spider. I gotta kill the spider.
I know, just went on here.
Oh, fucking great. I'm running away now.
Oh, this is great.
So anyway, that's the worst I could say about that album.
Well, listen, if you got to go though, just before you go, tell everyone where they can find your new project and stuff, man.
Well, find me at Franklin Bandcamp. I'm on that shit. Instagram, it's I don't even know my own Instagram handle. It's Franklin Grimes with 2 S's at the end out of it. If you like just boom bap hip hop, that real boss shit, check me out. I got like 6 fucking things coming within the next 6 months. Fucking 3 EPs, 5 singles, and like 3 collaborations. So you know, I'm out. Just looking for anybody that looks for anything.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris, for coming on. Much appreciated.
Coming on, man. I'll talk to you soon, man.
I appreciate you guys. Always great talking to you.
Take it easy,
buddy. All right, so there's I want to put this out there too, and I know we've said it countless fucking times, and we're gonna say it countless times again, but Rob is one of the best riff writers in metal, and I think it really showcases on this record, man. It's just, I mean, you go on Pass Out of Existence, like it was very evident in that record that he could write riffs, but I think this one just surpasses it in that element. Like it's just very well written. It's very memorable, I think, because when it's one of them records where like if you hear it in like, say you're like in a party and the dude upstairs puts like a song on, you automatically know it's Chimaira.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You could automatically tell that's a Rob riff. And the funny thing is, like, I didn't know for the longest time that Mark play guitar and that he had a lot of the direction on this record and with the band, which was very surprising to me because I found that out literally like a year ago. I didn't know he played guitar. I know he did it on like some live stuff. He would play like the instrumental stuff, and I thought, okay, maybe he's just being that third guitar player just to do it. But he's actually a guitar player, and he wrote a lot of the riffs on this record as well. And I think it's a phenomenal thing when you can have three different people be able to produce riffs like that.
Yep.
Yeah, it was this is like I said, this is a great album. I feel like what you were talking about, Jay, how like the tracks kind of like bounce you back and forth throughout the album as you listen to it. I even find myself sometimes like having my phone on shuffle and a song from this album will come on. And obviously if it's one that I know like really well, that it's one of my favorites, I'll know it right away. But then other songs, like we were talking, like if Crawl comes on or if Stig Murder comes on or Overlook comes on, that might not be a song that I necessarily like. I'm like, what song is this? But I still know it's Chimaira.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what? I have to like look at my phone again. I'm going, what album is this off of? But I still know it's Chimaira. They just have that sound. And from that era of music, I don't know that there's a lot of bands that you could turn on a song that wasn't a hit or a single that you would be able to pick out like that, like you can with this band. I feel like you can kind of do that with Lamb of God. You know what I mean? Lamb of God has like a sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Randy's vocals notwithstanding, yeah, they do have their own.
Yeah, they have a sound. They just have like a tune that they play in, a style that they play, and it's unique to them. And Chimaira had that during this era for sure.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because me and you are both 37. Jay is
correct.
You're 42?
Fucking old, 44.
All right, so Jay's 44, but if you think about it, so Jay's 7 years up, but at the same time though, 99 to 2005, I think, and this record's in that era, 2003, I think this is where some of the best music in our lifetimes has came out. I mean, there was so many bangers came out, and Jay said it before, Darkest Hour, God Forbids Determination, this record. Yep. I mean, this is like the golden, this is the golden era, I think, for metal and new metal.
That
I just think
the whole
it's the best years.
Korn Limp Bizkit era leading into, my first like real concert, so to speak, was Ozfest 2001 at 17 years old, and seeing Mudvayne and all these new metal bands. And but also seeing bands that didn't go on to have such stardom, like Nonpoint, American Head Charge, a lot of that stuff that I still find myself today going back and revisiting. And then leading into the 2003 Ozfest, which was Chimaira, Shadows Fall, Killswitch. I mean, that's stuff that like I constantly search for new music, and I love looking for new bands. And I know you do too, Tim, with your podcast that you do and all the interviews you do. But I constantly find myself going back to that era 100%. Yeah. I mean, it was a great time. It's nothing to be ashamed of that you are a part of. Like, I love it, and I'll ride for new metal to this day. It was fun. It was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just a good time.
And to your point, Rick, even some of the late new metal second tier, third tier bands were still really talented. It's just by that point, the sound had played itself out and ears were looking for a change.
Yeah.
And even some of the late new metal bands that had talent kind of got lumped in with some of the other bands that didn't. They were signed because, well, you kind of sound like Korn, and Korn, they just retired their video on TRL, so we'll bring you in. And some of the bands just got lumped in with
that's how Crazy Town. That's how Crazy Town got on TRL with Butterfly.
I still think that first album is great. We're gonna.
Jay was saying earlier that, I mean, because I seen that you answered this thing on the shit posting thing on Facebook, and some kid was like, "I was born in '98. Was new metal really as big as everyone says it was?" And you're like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when a song gets retired off of TRL, that's a new metal track. That's when the shit was fucking huge.
It was legit, man. It wasn't, it wasn't anything to laugh about. I mean, people, and I'm really curious, a little off topic. I'm really curious to see how this Woodstock 99 documentary comes out, because the trailer makes it sound like Limp Bizkit was the cause of everything wrong. And that led to like the alt-right, where if you think about it, right, if you were into Limp Bizkit and at Woodstock at 99, realistically, you were probably about 18 years old, right? Now that makes you 39. Are you telling me, like, when you looked at the insurrection on January 6th, it was a bunch of 39-year-olds? No, it was a bunch of old people or young people, right? It was John from Iced Earth. It wasn't, people my age who
it was Proud Boys and old guys.
Yeah, it wasn't people my age who have a mortgage and 2 kids. They're like, I can't afford to just get fucking arrested doing dumb shit. But I mean, I just think that, Limp Bizkit takes a bit of a beating, and I actually really hope that tour does well this summer. Like, I think it's
Spirit Box tour.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just listened to Spirit Box for the first time the other day, because I had saw on Lamb Goat that they were going to open for Limp Bizkit. So I was like, I don't know anything about Spirit Box. Like, let me just look into this. And it's basically a mirror with clean vocals. Like,
very genty. Yes.
Well, you know where the guitar player and singer come from, right?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about that band. I just listened.
I wrestled a bear once.
Oh,
really?
Okay.
Yeah, it's I Wrestled a Bear once. It's Courtney from I Wrestled a Bear, and her husband is the guitar player.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
I see.
So the question is, Tim, are we going to go into the place to watch them, or are we going to sit out in the parking lot and keep drinking? That's the question.
That's a rough question.
I wish one of those shows was coming closer to me, because they're not.
Come out to Jersey, Rick. We're going to the one in Asbury.
All right, what's the date? You guys hit me up with the date, and we'll see if we can swing it.
It's like Friday.
August 6th?
August 6th. It's a Friday. Yeah.
Oh shit, that's like less than a month away.
Sure. Now, do I take that day off and just drive early?
I'm taking a half day. I'm going to be out of here at like 1:32. Well, here's the thing. The show starts at, I think, 6.
Wait, Jay. Well, let's talk about that about this at the end. All right.
All right.
Yeah, because I know that it's getting late, and I know Rick's got like 3 kids, so he's probably.
Oh yeah, you're fine. Can I shout something out real quick?
Sure,
dude. Absolutely.
Because we're on the new metal tip right now.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to new metal, like, new metal is obviously like the heyday of it is over, but there are still a lot of bands that have new metal influence or are trying. I feel like that kind of movement's kind of coming back now. And I wanted to give a shout out to a band that I've been into now for quite a few years. They actually came up from Louisville and played my friend's basement one night. And that live set is on YouTube somewhere. And it's a good time. But there's a band from Louisville called Guerrilla Warfare. And
they're great.
They are like so good. And they're good friends of mine, really good dudes. And they have a ton of new metal, like hip hop style vocals over the really and Garrett now is doing vocals. He's the drummer, so very much an older Code Orange feel because it's a 3-piece. But yeah, the Guerrilla Warfare is great. They just put out a new single about a month ago called BBB, and it's really cool. And they got signed to the dude from Let Live and Fever 333. They got signed to his record label just before like COVID hit, so nothing has really happened yet. But they got signed to that 333 Records or whatever. So I wish them nothing but the best, and I wish everybody would check them out, because they really are like a modern new metal band, and it's really cool what they're doing.
Yeah, if you can hook us up with them, Rick, we would love to have them on the show. Like,
I'll try to talk to Garrett or Trace and see if I can get them hooked up with you guys. So
because I definitely think I reached out to them early on. And, it's just, it's kind of like a crapshoot when you're a new podcast. Nobody really knows you. But yeah, we would love to have them on. I really dig their stuff.
It is cool, man. It is really cool. And they're very, they're singing about something in a new metal style. Mm-hmm. They very much have a message, political message and stuff like that. And they're standing up for the things they believe in. So that song Headlines that came off the last EP called Consume is one of my favorite tracks. It's a banger, and it's good. So good. So yeah, I just want to shout those guys out.
Tala. It's like Tala. Like at first I hated it, and now I think that record's genius.
Yeah, new metal.
I'm saying that as a modern new metal band, I think Tala that's a genius record.
You'll have to send me something. I'll have to check it out.
856 did a whole set for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Max Portnoy's son, right?
Is it?
Yeah, the drummer is Max Portnoy, the drummer of Dream Theater's son. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they're
All right.
good. There's a lot of new metal coming out. Well, I don't want to call it new metal, but there's a lot of new metal influenced music coming out now that is actually pretty damn good and it holds up well against some of the stuff that was big back in the,
I think that
20
you
years
could
ago.
see heavy music become popular again, and it's not going to be with hardcore. It's not going to be with metal. It's not going to be with death metal or black metal. If heavy music is going to get popular again, it's going to go the way of a new metal, modern hip hop cadence. It's going to come back in that way. You know what I mean? Machine Gun Kelly is doing the best he can, but it's not making enough waves. So it's going to have to take something else. It's going to be a little bit heavy, but palatable for the normal person that's not normally into heavy music,
Yep.
It did before. I mean, look at Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit played MTV's Spring Break fashion show.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yep. Them and Pitch
Fred
Shifter.
Durst
I
is,
remember watching it
around,
live.
Acting like he's gonna pinch the girls' asses and stuff. And it was like it somewhat became like, this is aggressive, but it's still like in a way like sellable sexually. Like Fred Durst became a sex icon because he was talking about, Eminem's over here talking about Christina Aguilera sleeping with him or Fred Durst first or whatever. They were larger than life personalities, and it's going to take somebody like that to get at that level again.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you're right on that. Let's do this. Let's kill this episode and we'll bullshit for a couple minutes. I already brought up the whole era thing that I think we all agree about. I just want to bring one more thing up. I think the decision of going from 7-string to 6-string and going from new metal to a basic, just straight up metal thing was the best thing this band did. I think that it prolonged their career. And I think if they would have stayed, and me and Jay have talked about this, if they would have stayed in the 7-string thing and they would have stayed in the new metal thing, I think Roadrunner drops them. They get signed by some corny small label and they just fizzle out before any of these great records come out. And I think that was the best decision they made. And you know what? They produced some of the best fucking records of my life. And they forever will be a top 10 band for me.
Just play Chimaira Christmas once a year. Come on, guys. Fuck.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
If I was rich, I would call them up and be like, here's the set list. You're going to come to my house. You're going to set up and you're just going to play and I'll be happy.
Yeah. If I was rich, I would bring Chimaira out of retirement as well.
Absolutely.
Hopefully for good. Hopefully I'd bring them out for good. I'd be like, here's enough money to get going. And here's what I'm going to pay you yearly. And just go be a fucking band again. God.
I'm your new boss. Here's $200,000 for the year.
I'm the fucking boss, Mark. Okay.
So here's 1.2 million for the next 5 years, and give everybody $200,000, and we're good to go. That would
let's write some fucking dope riffs. Maybe it'll happen. I've heard some rumors because I'm in Ohio. I've heard some rumors that maybe some stuff's being written in the backgrounds.
It's coming.
So
I think a lot of bands are probably doing that. Plus, because nobody did anything for the past year, right? Nobody made any money for the past year. So, and we are on that weird sort of nostalgia kick where it's cool, but it's not, but it is. So why wouldn't you come out, do a quick major city tour, maybe do an East Coast? Like, look at how Glastio's doing it, right? They're doing it smart. You do a West Coast run, then you do an East Coast run. You play a bunch of festivals in the middle, right? Like Poison Noel did the same thing. They did their West Coast shows. Now they're going to end up doing East Coast shows, right? California Takeover. They did.
I think if Chimaira came back, I think they'd sell places out. I have no doubt in my mind that there's enough nostalgia and excitement about being able to see that band again that they would do very well. And like you said, it could just be a short run. Just go out there, cash that check. Everybody wants to see you. You don't have to make a career out of it again, but go out here and make a quick buck. Everybody would love to see you come back for, a few dates. So
as long as Philly is on there, I'm happy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you guys are out of like the mile radius of where they have to play so far away from the show.
Yeah, the radius clause. Yeah,
the radius clause. You guys will cover it. So yeah, Philly should hopefully get hit up.
All right, last question here. We'll start with Rick because he's on my left, and I like to go left to right. Out of 10, what do you give this record?
as a whole, I'm going to give this record a 9.7. Absolutely love it.
I'm gonna go 9.5. I think this record is pretty much perfect. I can't give it a 10 because I'll never give anything a 10.
Right.
The only thing that gets a 10 in my book is anything Deftones, but this record is a 9.5 for me. It's pretty much perfection to my ears. Jay?
This is a solid 9. If I'm doing evens, right? No points, just solid number. This is a solid 9, right? Because now I'm thinking about it. I don't have much to bitch about.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe 1, maybe 2 songs I would have lopped off, but I don't have much to bitch about. So I have no argument to make it any less than a 9. But yeah, I'm like you. Nothing will ever be a 10 for me. I'm way too anal.
Yeah. It's hard to give a 10. White Pony's a 10 for me, but we'll talk about that later. Dude, I guess on that we can pretty much kill this, right?
Yeah, let's take it home. So, Rick, where can people find you? They want to check out your show. They want to get in touch with you.
It's a Armed with a Mind podcast. You can find it on most podcast providers. It's a hardcore podcast. We do some interviews, not so much lately. Just been more just hardcore banter, talking about shows coming back, chopping it up about new music that's been coming out. And, hopefully when we get back to going to shows, hopefully we'll have just show reviews, just talking about, what's going on in the scene. And hopefully now that bands are more active again, it'll be easier to get bands on the show because there's actually something to talk about, something to be excited about. Because I think we found, that it was just tough during quarantine, with not a lot going on. People couldn't play shows. The further we got into it, it was harder to find anybody to come on and do an interview. But we do some fun stuff over there. I do it because I like to do it. If I had to say an episode to maybe jump in, if you're going to check out the podcast, we did a few casting episodes where we casted an X-Men movie with people from metal and hardcore.
Yeah, they were fun, man. It was
really, really fun. And, we tagged a lot of the people that we casted in the roles, and they were super stoked about it. And it was just a good time. And it was just fun to think about our favorite hardcore legends, playing these iconic roles in Marvel movies.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, the Karate Kid one was cool.
Oh yeah, we did Cobra Kai. We casted Cobra Kai
right,
with people from hardcore and metal, and that was also hilarious.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
So those are fun, man. Those are just fun to do. But yeah,
and I'll be on the show soon, so you can catch me on there.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're gonna get you and Adam on, maybe get Jay on, and I'd love to dive into your guys' past as well. So just
dude,
talking music, it's fun.
Fuck it, me and Jay will come on and do it one night.
Yeah, whenever we
definitely.
could do it after one of these one night.
Yeah, for sure.
Knock a New Breed episode out and then do an Arm with a Mind episode.
Yeah,
cool.
For real.
That'll work.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming on. And with that, obviously Instagram, Twitter, newbreed_podcast, newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. Tell us what you thought. Do you want us to go back to the old way, going song by song? Yes, no? Let us know. We have a Facebook group, which is out there. Feel free to find us there. You can find Tim and I both bouncing around r/numetal on Reddit. Once again, we want to thank both Chris and Rick for coming on. On behalf of all of us, I want to thank you all for listening. So until next time, this is a New Breed podcast saying cheers and keep it new.
Later.